The red light of triple suns bathed the crystalline spires of Therianthus, capital world of the Mammalia Collective. Commander Rufus Longtail, a battle-scarred vulpine strategist with burnished orange fur and cybernetic enhancements where his left eye once had been, stood motionless before the strategic holomap. His claws, sheathed in battle-worn titanium covers, tapped rhythmically against the projection console. "They've pushed through the avian blockade," reported Lieutenant Whiskers, a feline communications specialist whose black-tipped ears twitched nervously as she delivered the news. "The Scaled Alliance is now 8 parsecs from our outer colonies." Commander Longtail's tail bristled. The war had escalated beyond their grimmest predictions. For 12 cycles, the 3 great animal kingdoms of the Andromeda 7 galaxy, Mammalia, Reptilia, and Ivia, had maintained an uneasy peace. Resources were shared, territories respected, technological advances exchanged through careful diplomatic channels. But all that changed when the ancient prophecy of the stellar Crucible had been fulfilled. "Show me the arachnid sector," Rufus ordered, his voice a controlled growl. The holomap shifted, revealing the web-like structures that marked the neutral territories of the Arachnid Consortium, the Fourth Kingdom, smaller but crucial in maintaining galactic balance. It was there, among the silken asteroid fields, that the Crucible had been discovered. A power source of unimaginable potential, believed to be left by the Precursors who had seeded their galaxy with sentient animal life eons ago. The Serpent. "Emperor has mobilized his entire venom fleet," Whiskers continued. "And our intelligence suggests they've weaponized the Crucible technology." Rufus closed his eye, memories flashing of the devastating first strike. 3 mammalian worlds reduced to ash in a single solar rotation. The Scaled Alliance, the united forces of Reptilia, had moved with cold precision, their natural patience, serving them well in planning this moment. "And our avian allies?" he asked, though he already suspected the answer. "The Hawks and Eagles stand with us, but the Corvids have declared neutrality, and the Peafowl Dominion has—" Whiskers hesitated, "has pledged allegiance to Emperor Cirthes." "Traitors to feather!" Rufus snarled, then composed himself. "Prepare the jump rabbits for immediate deployment to reinforce Rodentia Prime, and send word to the wolf packs in the Outer Rim. It's time to activate Operation Moonhowl." As Whiskers hurried to execute his orders, Commander Longtail's attention turned to the holographic representation of the Crucible, a dodecahedral crystal pulsing with energy that seemed to bend the light around it. According to Precursor texts, it was meant to be an instrument of final evolution, not destruction. Somehow, he needed to fulfill its true purpose before the galaxy became a graveyard of fur, feather, and scale. General Hissfang slithered through. The command deck of the Venomous Strike, flagship of the Reptilia Armada. His massive cobra hood expanded with pride as he observed the battle displays. The mammalian defenses were crumbling faster than expected, their emotional attachment to civilian populations making them predictably weak. "The Warmbloods retreat from the Felidae system," reported Commander Quicktongue, a sleek green viper whose specialized optical implants allowed him to process battlefield data at remarkable speeds. The canine heavy infantry attempted a counterattack, but were decimated by our basilisk mech units. "Excellent," Hissfang rasped, his forked tongue flicking with satisfaction. "And the avian resistance in Sector Talon?" "Scattered and disorganized." The Owlseers attempted to coordinate their forces, but our psionic dampeners have rendered their foresight abilities useless. The Ravens attempted negotiation, but have since withdrawn to their home systems. Hissfang coiled his 30-foot length into the command nest, armored scales clicking against each other as he settled into position. The reptiles had waited centuries for this moment. Cold-blooded patience was their evolutionary advantage. While the mammals built their sprawling democracies and the birds created their high-minded philosophical councils, the Scaled Alliance had quietly prepared for war. "General!" came a new voice as a hooded Cobra officer entered, bearing the royal insignia of Emperor Cirthes. "I bring direct orders from his cold-blooded majesty." The officer presented a crystalline data scale, which Hissfang accepted with reverence. Placing it against his hood, he absorbed the encoded instructions through his specialized sensory pits. His eyes widened. Prepare the Crucible weapon for deployment against the Ursine homeworld. We strike at the heart of mammalian resistance. Quick-Tongue's tail rattled in alarm, the universal reptilian sign of concern. General, the Crucible's power is still not fully understood. Our scientists warn that using it against a world with such a strong magnetic field could have unpredictable consequences. The Emperor has spoken, Hisfang replied coldly. The bears have been the backbone of mammalian resistance for too long. Their strength and resilience make them dangerous. When they fall, the rest will soon surrender. As the command crew dispersed to execute their orders, Hisfang accessed a private channel to a secured chamber deep within the vessel. The holographic image of a massive crocodilian appeared, ancient and scarred, with eyes that reflected millennia of patient calculation. "I'm high evolutionist," Hisfang acknowledged with a bow of his head. "The Emperor has ordered the Crucible deployed against Ursus Major." The ancient crocodilian's voice rumbled like distant thunder. "Then the prophecy moves toward fulfillment. Remember, General, the Crucible was not designed as a weapon of destruction, but transformation. What emerges from its use may not be what the Emperor expects." "I serve the Emperor's will," Hisfang replied automatically, though doubt flickered in his cold blood. "As do we all," the High Evolutionist agreed. "But ask yourself, are we serving the will of our species, or something greater that moves through the cosmos itself?" The Avian Grand Council convened in the floating citadels of Aerie Prime, their chambers open to the purple skies of their homeworld. Unlike mammalian or reptilian structures, avian architecture embraced open space, with few walls and many platforms designed for both flight and perching. High Sovereign Aquila, a golden eagle whose wings spanned 4 meters and whose feathers were adorned with ceremonial electrum rings denoting her centuries of leadership, presided over the fractured council. "The Corvid technocracy's neutrality is unacceptable," screeched General Skyhunter, a peregrine falcon whose feathers still bore the scorch marks from the recent battle at the Sparrow Nebula. "They develop weapons for both sides while claiming intellectual detachment. The ravens and crows have always valued knowledge over allegiance," replied Ambassador Windrider, a mature albatross who had circumnavigated the galaxy 7 times as part of his diplomatic service. "But more concerning is the Peafal Dominion's defection to the Scaled Alliance." Aquila raised her wing for silence, her sharp eyes taking in the assembled representatives of dozens of avian species. The council chamber fell quiet, save for the occasional rustle of feathers. "We have received a communication from Commander Longtail of the Mammalia Collective," she announced. "The canine pack fleet is preparing to engage the main reptilian force near the Whisker asteroid belt. They request our aerial support squadrons." "Half our fleet was destroyed defending the Feathered Ring," protested a flamingo senator, his pink plumage bristling with indignation. "We cannot sacrifice more of our people for a mammalian war strategy that treats us as expendable." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The alliance with the Mammals had always been fragile, based more on mutual distrust of reptiles than genuine affinity. "There is another option," came a new voice, soft but penetrating. All eyes turned to the shadowed alcove, where Nyx, representative of the Owl Seers, perched in contemplative silence. Ancient and mysterious, the owls rarely spoke in council, preferring to share their prophetic visions only in times of greatest need. "The Crucible was not created to destroy, but to unify," Nyx continued, her feathers seeming to absorb the light around her. "Our oldest texts speak of the Precursor's intent, not eternal war between fur, feather, and scale, but transcendence beyond our forms." "Mystical nonsense," snapped General Skyhunter. "While the Owl Seers contemplate metaphysics, real birds die in battle." "The reptiles believe they can control the Crucible's power," Nyx continued, unperturbed. "They cannot. None of us can. But we can guide its purpose through collective consciousness. If representatives of all 3 kingdoms were to interface with it simultaneously—" "You suggest cooperation with those who burn our worlds?" demanded an Osprey commander, talons gripping her perch so tightly the metal warped beneath them. "I suggest that victory through conventional warfare is impossible," Nyx replied. "The prophecy speaks of three who become one. A triumvirate of consciousness, mammal, bird, and reptile, united in purpose." High Sovereign Aquila's expression remained inscrutable, but her voice carried new resolve when she spoke. "Contact, Commander Longtail, and open a secure channel to the reptilian high evolutionist. It's time we explored alternatives to mutual annihilation." Deep within neutral territory, on an unremarkable moon orbiting a gas giant, three figures met in secret. Commander Rufus Longtail, representing Mammalia, High Sovereign Aquila of the Avian Council, and, most surprisingly, the ancient Crocodilian, High Evolutionist Kronos from the Scaled Alliance. The chamber was ancient, predating their civilizations, clearly of Precursor origin. Glyphs covered the crystalline walls, depicting the evolutionary journey from primitive creatures to the advanced societies that now warred among the stars. At the center of the chamber floated the true Crucible, not the weapon the reptilians had constructed from fragments, but the complete artifact in its intended form. A dodecahedron of impossible geometry, each face shifting and changing as if alive, pulsing with energy that seemed to breathe with cosmic rhythm. The reptilian fleet will deploy their weaponized version against Ursus Major within 12 hours, Rufus reported grimly. Our intelligence confirms they've integrated just enough of the Crucible's technology to create devastating effects, but not enough to understand what they're truly unleashing. Emperor Cirthis believes he will force evolution along reptilian lines, Kronos confirmed, his ancient eyes heavy with the weight of centuries. He is mistaken. The Crucible doesn't care about our petty divisions. It responds to consciousness itself, to intention and unity. Aquila's keen eyes studied the artifact. The Owl Seers believe three consciousnesses, joined in harmony but maintaining their unique perspectives, must interface with it simultaneously. One from each kingdom. A sacrifice, Rufus realized, whiskers twitching as he processed the implications. A transformation, Kronos corrected. Those who join with the Crucible will not die, but they will no longer exist as we understand existence. They will become the guiding consciousness for what comes next. "I volunteer," said Rufus without hesitation, thinking of his mate and cubs on a world that might soon be targeted. "As do I," Aquila declared, spreading her magnificent wings. "My time as sovereign is ending. Let my final act serve all feathered kind." Kronos nodded his massive head slowly. "And I shall represent scale and cold blood. After 10,000 years of watching my people's slow descent into conquest, perhaps this is why I was preserved for so long." As the three approached the Crucible, each from a different direction, the artifact began to pulse more rapidly, its light growing to envelop them in cocoons of energy that seemed both solid and permeable, both matter and thought. "For fur," whispered Rufus. "For feather," breathed Aquila. "For scale," rumbled Kronos. Their minds touched through the Crucible's energy, pain and pleasure, memory and hope, instinct and reason all flowing together. Barriers dissolved. The boundaries between species, between individual consciousnesses, between matter and energy began to blur, and throughout the galaxy, all warfare suddenly ceased. On the bridge of the venomous strike, General Hisfang froze in mid-command as a wave of foreign consciousness washed over him. Suddenly, impossibly, he could feel the terror of mammalian civilians fleeing his forces. He could experience the grief of avian parents whose nests had been destroyed. Most disturbingly, he could sense the complex motivations and fears of his own emperor, the insecurity and ancient trauma that drove his conquests. Similar scenes played out on vessels and planets throughout the galaxy. Predator species felt the terror of their prey. Historical enemies experienced each other's generational pain. Ancient rivals shared moments of beauty and creation across the divide of species. On Ursus Major, a bear general fell to his knees as reptilian consciousness flowed through him. The patient clarity, the beautiful simplicity of basking in stellar warmth, the complex social hierarchies hidden beneath seemingly cold exteriors. In the corvid technocracy, brilliant Raven scientists suddenly understood the emotional depths of mammalian social bonds in the spiritual reverence of reptilian evolutionary patience. For 7 rotations, the galaxy existed in this state of shared consciousness, not a hive mind erasing individuality, but a complex network of empathic understanding that made continued conflict unthinkable. When it finally faded, leaving each being once again contained, within their own mind, something fundamental had changed. The Crucible itself had vanished from the ancient chamber, but its energy had dispersed throughout the galaxy, subtle alterations to the fabric of reality itself. One full cycle later, representatives from all kingdoms gathered on neutral ground, the arachnid homeworld, where the spider-like inhabitants had maintained their distance from the conflict while quietly building the foundation for whatever would come after. The new governing body was called the Bestial Concord. No longer segregated by evolutionary heritage, representatives were selected based on aptitude and wisdom. A wolf senator worked alongside a python diplomat. A raven strategic commander partnered with a leopard scientist. In place of the missing original leaders, new figures had emerged. From the mammals, a young otter named Riversong, whose innovative approach to aquatic agriculture had saved millions during the war. From the avians, a humble pigeon called Messenger, who had flown through battlefields carrying communications when all technology failed. And from the reptiles, a young iguana named Sunseeker, who had hidden mammalian refugees in her desert community against the Emperor's orders. Together, they unveiled the monument, 3 intertwined DNA helixes rendered in crystalline material, harvested from the chamber where the Crucible had been activated. Inscribed along the base were words attributed to the 3 who had sacrificed their individual existences. Evolution is not tooth and claw alone, but heart and mind united. We are not the end of our species' journey, but a single step along, a path that stretches beyond the stars themselves. As the triple suns of the system set, casting long shadows across the gathered representatives of a galaxy forever changed, a subtle energy pulsed through the monument. Those standing nearest would later report a strange sensation, the fleeting touch of consciousnesses both familiar and vast, watching over what they had helped create. In the darkness of space beyond, unseen by any telescope or sensor, 3 points of light, one warm red, one brilliant gold, one emerald green, moved in perfect harmony, guardians of a peace purchased through understanding rather than conquest. And somewhere in the hidden places between stars, the Precursors watched, as their children took their next evolutionary step toward joining them.